You are listening to the Fan2Fan Podcast, and on this episode, we're talking about 1990's The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, starring the Dice Man himself, Andrew Dice Clay. Here we go. Welcome to the Fan2Fan Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Bernie Gonzalez. With me today, fellow co-host Pete Charbonneau, and we have a returning guest, Graham. And recently, we've been talking about comfort movies, those movies that make us feel good, that we can pop in anytime, and we know we're going to love. We're going to enjoy watching them. We can't help but revisit the movies on a regular basis. And Graham has a movie that, it's a cult classic for sure. I remember watching it many years ago. I think Pete will probably be able to quote a few lines from it. So Graham, take it away. All yours.
One of my favorite comfort watches, Pete probably knows what I'm going to say, is Adventures of Ford Fairlane with Andrew Dice Clay.
His gun doesn't need a silencer. His mouth does.
Come on, down, Stanley.
Stanley?
You know, like the power drill.
Oh! Uncontrollable. Unstoppable. Unmistakably Dice.
Nice to meet your acquaintance.
Mr. Fairlane, when I was 11, I walked in on my father, the Shetland pony he gave me for my 10th birthday. Does that excite you?
I don't know. I never met your father.
Ford Fairlane. Starring Priscilla Presley.
Who?
I wouldn't trust that babe as far as I could bowl her.
Ed O'Neill.
Booty time. Booty time.
Robert Englund. Tone Loc. And Wayne Newton.
What?
Yes, Wayne Newton.
I'm hip.
Andrew Dice Clay is Ford Fairlane.
Treat me like the pig that I am.
This is in my man cave. This is a framed version of Andrew Dice Clay as Ford Fairlane. So
you didn't think we killed a koala bear, did you?
Absolutely love that movie.
If you're like sick, if you're down and out, if you got nothing to watch, are you more likely to like pull that off the shelf? I'm assuming, you got the framed picture, so you've got to have a VHS DVD copy of it.
A comfort for me would be like consistently, I'm always going to love watching this movie. Anytime, watch it, love it.
Wait, you're going to pull what out?
Pull out
watching
pull
it?
out Stanley. The power drill. Have you seen it, Bernie?
I couldn't tell you how many presidential administrations it's been since I've seen Ford Fairlane. This was like one of those movies that I think was like perpetually on cable for a while. TBS, TNT, USA at 1 a.m.
You're watching USA, America's favorite cable network.
So I went to college. I graduated college in 2004. My roommate at the time, him and his dad, obsessed with Andrew Dice Clay. I mean, I knew of him, and I liked him from Pretty in Pink aspect, And so, we're just drunk as shit into the night. He's like, I'm putting on, and he had the VHS. And he's like, I'm putting this on. The movie launched also my love of hair metal, because at that time I didn't really pay attention to hair metal, but they used the Motley Crue song at the beginning because Vince Neil's playing Bobby Black, fake version. Rock and Roll Junkie, which, it wasn't like a big hit, but it was awesome, captivated me. And then I was like, this sounds good. I'm going to have to start listening to Motley Crue, but just laughing my ass off at everything in the movie. And then, watched it sober as well, still laughing my ass off. And, we're like, hey, this is just the VHS copy. When's the DVD coming out? 2 years later, they announced the DVD. And I'm not lying when I say this, because you've talked about the Walmart bin, but we would always grocery shop there because college kids, that's where you grocery shop. And even 2 weeks before it had its expected release date, because I planned to, go to Best Buy or something, buy it on release day. It's sitting in the bargain bin, 10 copies right on top, $4.99. So five of us bought it.
So you bought all 10?
Pretty much, because everybody liked the movie. Everybody bought a copy. And then I think I got that framed poster off eBay.
Nice. That's where you got to like the 16-year-old kid who didn't care about what day it was supposed to be released and put on the shelf. He's like, I'm just going to put it in the bin with all the other DVDs.
Yes.
And meanwhile, you're smiling ear to ear.
Now showing at Blockbuster Video. uncontrollable, unstoppable, unmistakable. The Dice Man, Andrew Dice Clay.
Another satisfied customer.
The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, rated R from CBS Fox Video.
Do you remember the first time you saw it?
Yeah, so in the dorm, yeah, that was the first time. Because, I probably passed it on an Up All Night USA, didn't register, but yeah, watching it in the dorm. So I probably would have been like 19.
Two of my buddies, one of their like comfort watches is Bachelor Party. And I had not seen that like growing up. So I remember they would always quote the movie back and forth. Everything went over my head. So I finally, watched it. And that's where we kind of came up with this theory that like some of these movies that were on when we were growing up, if you didn't necessarily watch them then, you may not have the love for them now, especially when you're talking for people who loved it. Like I think Monster Squad, Pete, I think that's one that like, a lot of people love it. I don't know that it's not in your top 10. Yeah. Like Fright Night, it's a movie I saw more recently. Like I didn't see it growing up, and watching it, man, I don't want to disappoint my friends who love and swear by Fright Night. Then I'm like, guys, I finally saw it. What'd you think? And I'm like, I didn't enjoy it. It's like, no, Fright Night was great. Bachelor Party, though, didn't enjoy it. So I'm just glad that, Graham, at least with Fairlane, you saw it later, but it still made a good impression enough that you're like, oh, yeah, I could watch this movie anytime.
Yes. And even I went back, I've read about it, and even Roger Ebert had to be like, this movie's stupid, but Andrew Dice Clay is a good actor.
Perhaps Wayne Newton's best role after Best of the Best, too.
In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, baby.
You're fired, Julie.
And Morris Day, you got to shave when you wear a dress like that, and I'm not talking about your legs.
I'm almost ashamed to admit this, but for the good of the podcast, I will. Saw this movie twice in the theater. I think 2 days in a row when it came out, because my good friend at the time, Pete DeVito, styled himself as the high school version of Andrew Dice Clay, and he was obsessed with Andrew Dice Clay. I certainly enjoyed the movie. I thought the movie was stupid fun, and I really liked it. And it came out, and he was immediately quoting every line. And he's like, "We're going back tomorrow. Come on!" And I had nothing better to do at that point in my life. Like my life revolved around going to the movies and then going to Friendly's afterwards for a Sunday. So it's like, sounds great. Looks like I got something to do on both nights this weekend. So I saw Ford Fairlane twice in the theater. We might be the only ones, but I'll take that.
Excuse me. Could you tell us how to get to Mann's Chinese Theater?
Come back to Michigan, asswipe.
Oh, we're from Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I'm from my dad's penis. Get out of here.